Major plot hole in Disney's live-action Beauty and the Beast that changes everything. Hello and welcome back, Disney fans. Everyone who is a fan of Disney has most likely seen Beauty and the Beast, whether in the form of the animated version released in 1991 or the reimagined live-action version released in 2017. In today's video, we're going to be discussing a major plot hole in the storyline narrative that changes the movie drastically. Before we get into today's video, if you are a fan of all things Disney and Pixar, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We upload videos frequently and cover topics ranging from general movie discussions to fan theories and Easter eggs. If that interests you, please like and subscribe, and be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our magical uploads. Alright, let's not waste any more time and get right on in. As we all know, Disney's Beauty and the Beast is a story that teaches us that true love can overcome exterior beauty. Throughout the story, the audience meets Belle, a villager who appears to be both loved and hated. She is loved because of her kindness and her beauty, but due to her interest in knowledge, the rest of the village seems to really dislike her. Throughout the series of events, Belle ends up trading her life to be imprisoned in place of her father. This is where Belle meets the Beast, a prince that, after turning away an enchantress due to her looks, was turned into a monster and destined to stay a beast for all eternity if he couldn't find true love by the time a specific rose's last petal falls. Now let's talk about the subtle yet major plot hole that no one seemed to notice in the animated film. Why didn't anyone in the village know about the Beast or his castle? It wasn't that far from the village, and it's hard to believe that no one ever ventured out far enough to discover it. Taking a closer look at the animated version of the movie, you will notice that the villagers never mention a beast. In fact, they think Maurice, Belle's father, is crazy for saying that he had been imprisoned by a monster who was now holding his daughter captive. Even Gaston, who is infatuated by Belle, doesn't take him seriously at first, not until Gaston sees the beast for himself. Then a riot breaks out, and the villagers march to the castle. Clearly, in this version of the film, the town has no knowledge of the beast, which is strange because the incident not only occurred close to their town and involved a very high-profile person, aka the prince, but it also involved members of the village, people that should have been missed or mourned. Now, when you compare the classic animated version of Beauty and the Beast to the newer, reimagined live-action version, there are some clear differences, one of which manages to clean off that little plot hole that we talked about in the animated movie. You see, in the live-action version, they actually explain why the villagers don't have any recollection of the castle, the beast, or the incident. The enchantress that placed the curse on the prince and all his guests went a little bit further and included the villagers too, to ensure that the village wouldn't meddle or cause any problems by interfering with the beast's new quest. She extended the curse their way as well. She didn't transform them into furniture, of course, but instead, she made sure to erase their memory of everything. This included the castle, all of the people inside, including relatives and loved ones, and the prince himself. To the village of Villeneuve, it was like none of it ever existed in the first place. Now, in the beginning, it would appear that this little addition to the plot filled up the tiny opening that was left in the animated movie. However, shortly after, fans began realizing that it opened up an entirely new plot hole that was almost equally as confusing as the original one. As we know, over the years that have gone by, people inside never aged after being transformed. When they turned back into their normal human forms, they were the same exact age they were on the night that they were cursed and transformed. Chip was still a child. Madame Garderobe hadn't aged a moment, and even the dog managed to stay the same age when he transformed back. This isn't too much of an issue, and it is easily rationalized when you think about the curse. Perhaps because they were all transformed under the specific rules, the enchantress halted their aging process. That's fair, and pretty easy to write off as no big deal. That is until you realize that all of the villagers appear to not only recognize everyone who had been transformed, but also appear to be the same age as well. A really good example of this is Mr. and Mrs. Potts. Though she had been transformed for years and hadn't aged, Mr. Potts still should have though, but instead they appear to be in the same age group when they meet after the curse is broken. Wouldn't you think that Mr. Potts would be much older than her by now? Unless she married him and had his child while he was younger than she was, but she doesn't mention him looking older. So you can only assume that they must have looked exactly the same as the day she and her son got trapped in the castle. So it turns out this minor change they made for the live-action version actually had some rather large results when you begin to pick it apart. Now the question becomes, why do we care? Well, it turns out this is a pretty big deal. A theory from a fan on Reddit goes into a bit of detail about exactly what it changes in Beauty and the Beast. As we know in the live-action version of the movie, the reason the villagers of Villeneuve don't have any recollection of the prince or the incidents is because the enchantress placed the entire village under her spell, forcing them to forget about the events that just occurred outside their town. But why did no one in the town age since the day the curse was made? It's because instead of just erasing their memories, the enchantress also forced all of the villagers into a time loop where they live the same day over and over again. For starters, have you noticed the way that all of the villagers seem to move throughout the town? Doesn't it also seem to have a rhythm to it? And no, not just because of the song that Belle is singing in the beginning. It's more like their movements have an almost routine-like feel to them. None of them, including Belle, really have to look around when they're walking through the square or doing their daily tasks. It all just seems to fall into place very smoothly, almost as if they had done the exact same thing day after day after day. There is even a comment that Belle makes at the beginning of the movie about how she finds the village to be very mundane because it seems to sell the same goods day in and day out. Maybe that's because they are living in the same day over and over again, causing the goods that are placed out to remain the same. Now, this begs the question as to why Belle and her father age, and why Belle seems to be the only one to notice these routines. It's because Belle and Maurice moved to the village from Paris after the enchantress placed a spell on everyone. When Belle moved into town, she came in from a world that time had moved on in, and stepped into this fairy tale village that had been cursed by an enchantress. So she and her father were still affected by the concept of time and space around them, while the village remained stagnant in its day-to-day life. This would explain why a lot of people in the village dislike Belle and Maurice. It's because they're different and go about their daily lives in a different manner than the rest of the village. And as we know from the theme of the film, the villagers do not like things that are different from what they are. Perhaps being stuck in a time loop has made them even more stuck in their ways. With nothing around them changing, it would mean that any sort of minor change that occurs in their presence would seem huge and send them into a rage or a panic, just like when they found out about the existence of the beast. Instead of being like, "Oh, that's odd. How did we not know about this monster living a stone's throw away from our town?" They decided to be like, "It's different. Let's kill the beast." They even sang a song about it. Being stuck in time would certainly explain why they are stuck in their grotesque ways of thinking. That's for sure. This plot hole shows us why it is important to look at the most minor of details in our favorite movies. It's so easy to miss something that seems so small, but in reality has much larger implications. This is why fans love looking for Easter eggs and coming up with theories. It makes the worlds and universes that these movies take place in seem a little more alive. For instance, did you know there is a theory that Chip is actually the son of the Beast in the movie? How crazy is that? We're not getting into that one in today's video, but stay tuned because maybe we'll dive into that one in a later video. That's all, Disney fans. Let us know what you thought about this video in the comments, and like and subscribe for more magically packed videos.